Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, let's figure out what is happening with Tesla stock. And a pretty phenomenal day for Tesla, outperforming the market substantially. And yeah, let's just talk about, well, what we can expect in the month of July as per usual. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. It does help a lot. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live. That link, of course, is down below. You get access to all my daily thoughts, posts, updates, etc. on Tesla every single day. The market is open, constant, updates on Tesla, whenever it's obviously worthy. Sometimes I make, much longer posts like this as well. So just $3 a month. If you're interested, that link will be below. But with that being said, jumping into what Tesla closed in the day with a beautiful 6% on the day, closing pretty much at $210 per share, which obviously compared to the market is a pretty significant outperformance. Now, what does this mean moving forward to, for the rest of July, really, right? Like, what does this mean moving into July with a phenomenal way to start July as well? So first and foremost, let's talk about today, right? Today, obviously, massive push up on elevated volume. Pretty damn good sign. Now, there's a few caveats here. Number one, we have the delivery numbers coming out tomorrow morning. That's number one. That could be a potential sell the news event. Usually when you, not always, but usually when you rally into these kind of news events, regardless of how good or bad the numbers are tomorrow, it's a sell the news event. I think that that's a higher probability right now because we ran 6% into that day. Personally, obviously it doesn't mean it has to be, but in terms of probability, I think it's a higher probability. Second of all, Wednesday is a half day, Thursday's market is closed. Just keep that in mind as, in the back of your head. Now, what does this mean moving forward? So Tesla did break above 205, right? Now let's remove this for now, the bands, right? Tesla did break above the 205 level. That's a pretty important level to break. Why is that an important level to break? Well, first and foremost, I think it pretty much eliminates these levels down here. I'd be pretty surprised if we go all the way back down here, but I'm going to keep this line here at about 186 because I do think that there is the possibility we'll come down to these levels once again. I'll go over that and why I think that is. But as of right now, Tesla is still, sitting in a very good spot. And the reason is because it broke above this 205 level and even closed above this gap fill we had on earnings all the way back in pretty much January of this year, at the beginning of the year, right? We had this massive gap down and that really, made us go even lower. We just kept bleeding, etc., right? But Tesla broke above this level of 205. That is very, very crucial. Why? Because it broke a medium-term trend. It's, in my views, at least in my eyes, it's a medium-term trend change. This is what I was telling my members about this morning, the medium-term trend change. Why is that? Because, well, whenever Tesla was, there's also a specific reason I use the word medium and not long-term, and I'll explain why. Now, so Tesla, obviously long-term, we're still in a downtrend. Even after this move today, we're still arguably in a downtrend. In my opinion, we don't really break this overall long-term downtrend until at the very least we break above this red line to really start things off. And honestly, if you really want to be something really critical about it, honestly, I'd want to see 260s broken to really convince me that the long-term downtrend has officially been broken. So there's still more work to be done, but that's long-term. Medium-term is still pretty good, and you need a medium-term break in order to get that eventual long-term break, right? It's one step at a time. So it's still very, very good. I want to make that very clear. But because, Tesla has been in this downtrend, right, constantly making these higher lows, lower lows, lower highs, right? Constantly making these right here. You can see it constantly doing this. Then remember when we broke up here and I told you this is really good. This is a good start because we broke above this high over here. We set a fresh higher high. That's a good start. I'm sure you remember if you go back to this video, what is this, end of April, I most likely talked about that. And then we came back down and we set a higher low, right? Arguably than what this low down here was. That's also a good start. And then we ended up actually confirming it. And now we've set a fresh higher high on this kind of medium to almost long-term downtrend, which was this high over here at about 205. The fact that we broke above that is a good sign. My mouth is a little dry. It's a little hot. That's a good sign, right? Why is that a good sign? Because we have officially broken that trend. We set a fresh higher high, right? Because we started off with setting the fresh higher high here, higher low here, and now today we set officially that fresh higher high. So that's a good sign. That is kind of what I want to see because that to me is a trend change and a trend shift. So what does that actually mean though moving forward? Like, okay, trend this, trend that, like what does that really mean? That to me means the fact that Tesla now should be in an uptrend and any pullbacks that occur from here, which obviously still can and will, are opportunities. In my opinion, are opportunities. I'm sure the pullbacks will still be severe in certain situations. They'll still be there to scare people out, make people panic, etc. But based on this trend change for the medium term, I personally believe that Tesla not only has now opened the possibilities to go up to this final boss trend line, which is this red line, which looks a little bit better on my weekly chart, you can see here, to come and retest this red line over here, which will be somewhere in the 220s, maybe as high as 230s if it happens really early, like maybe like next week or this week, but somewhere in the 220s we'll say, which is that trend line. I think this unlocks that potential to at the very least come up to retest that sometime this month. I don't know when. Could be this week, could be next week, could be the week after. No idea. But sometime this month, I would expect that to happen. So that's really good. But again, because we had this nice trend change, that's a very good sign. So any pullbacks from here, which I'll talk about where I think it can pull back to, are just, in my opinion, opportunities. Now, with that being said and done, though, keep in mind, right, we are starting to get some pretty overbought territories, right? And did break above this level. I didn't expect actually to break above 205 this quickly. I actually thought at least it'll happen tomorrow after delivery numbers. I'm surprised it happened prior to the delivery numbers. Thankfully, I didn't sell any covered calls on Friday because I was going to, but I didn't. So I did today though. But the indicators are overbought. For instance, RSI now entering overbought territories. Stochastic overbought, right? If we zoom out on the stochastic, or if I even open it up here, you can see we're now entering that level up here where, you know, every time it's came into this general range that it entered today in, it hasn't stayed here that much longer. And ultimately, at some point, one way or another, it did ultimately get a somewhat mini correction, we'll say, from these elevated levels. Today's and this movement is going to be no different. I know people are going to be thinking that Tesla's just going to go only up from here. I'm sure I'll see comments that say Tesla will pretty much just go to 260 tomorrow or something like that. And that's it. Tesla's only going up. That's just not how it works. It will get corrections. That's just how the stock market works. Now, with that being said, though, because Tesla made this move, and because even people in my members thing were saying that maybe they sold too early, or maybe they didn't enter at all, or not enough, or whatever, right? You know, there's FOMO on the horizon, is what I'm trying to say. There is some FOMO on the horizon. What stocks like Tesla like to usually do whenever it gets these kind of moves is it likes to bait the FOMO. It likes to really make these people that, you know, maybe didn't buy enough, maybe didn't enter at all, maybe sold too early. It really likes to kind of almost like rile them up, really get them FOMO'd in, and really catch them off guard, right? Really wants to make them think that it's just going to continue going. Any small red days that we'll get, which we will, people are going to be like, okay, cool. The correction has begun. I'll wait for it to correct further, then I'll re-enter. And then you're going to watch it just completely eat up all that redness and then maybe push it even a little bit higher. And this is going to really set that FOMO in motion. And that's what these stocks like to do whenever it gets these kind of moves. It likes to make people really miss that boat and make them have to chase. That's personally what I expect to happen. Now, obviously, with all that being said, we're still extremely overbought. Even the daily now is entering extreme overbought territories on the daily chart, right? So, you know, we are still coming up to an area that is pretty crucial to potentially resist that. Because again, you can see I have some fresh lines here, right? For instance, this 212 region, which I put from this pivot point all the way back here in 18th of August of 2023. Nice little pivot point there. We came up right to it pretty much and rejected so far. Little, congestion rather zone all the way we had over here before that earnings drop. So this is an area, a bit of a supply, right? There's a bit of supply within this general area. If we break above this, though, I personally think we're on our way to the 220s to retest this trend line. And above that, if we somehow break this trend line like right away, I think about 230 is next as well, where I think we'll get a pretty decent rejection from there as well. So if we somehow make it to 230, I think we'll absolutely reject there pretty substantially with a nice little correction. But as of right now, what I personally expect is, I honestly don't think a correction from here would be impossible. But if we do push higher, I think 220s is still very much in play before the correction begins. Now, again, I want to make it clear, a correction doesn't always mean a crash or a move to the downside. You have something called sideways corrections. That can be that, right? That's kind of what we had over here. We had a massive move up almost instantly, and then we had a sideways correction. We corrected sideways for quite some time before we moved up even higher. So keep that in mind. You can have sideways corrections as well. But let's say we do correct to the downside. Where do I see it moving downwards, right? Where can we see Tesla retrace to? First and foremost, the level to really watch for is going to be pretty much 205. This was that major pivot level over here, the level that we did officially break today, that officially broke the medium-term, downtrend, or the change of character, if you will, which is a good sign to see. That changes the trend for the medium term, which is good. So coming back to that level and now turning it back into support is step number one. That could be all we get for a correction, even as early as tomorrow, honestly. And the FOMO continues. That's personally what I expect to be right now. Probably tomorrow, I expect this to most likely sell off. People are going to think the correction has begun. Great. Tesla's going back to the 180s, 190s. I'll buy there. And then all it does is come back to 205, maybe a little bit lower, and then it just eats it back up. And then we move up even higher, maybe Wednesday or Friday, because Thursday's off, of course, market is closed. That's kind of what I personally expect right now. Just because we're overbought, it doesn't mean, and I said this before, when this rally does happen, and I said this, you can go back to the videos, when we do break out, I expect us to stay overbought for an extended period of time, and that's exactly what we're doing. We are overbought for an extended period of time. That's essentially what's happening. So I still expect that to continue. There's a lot of strength in Tesla. It's happening on elevated volume. I still believe Tesla will stay overbought for an extended period of time. And any dips we get from here, I personally think as of right now will get eaten up and the FOMO train will continue into really, really FOMO people back into the stock. That's what I expect. So we'll see. But again, the levels to the downside, 205, followed by this 199, 200 level, followed by all the way down to about the 191 to 187-ish, followed by pretty much low 180s. Those are the main levels to the downside I can see happening. But again, as of right now, with the strength, with the volume, with the FOMO train that I believe is going to happen, I'd be pretty shocked if we go below 200. I'll be completely honest. Even below 205, I'd be a little bit surprised. I still think coming down to about the 191 to 187-ish region, I still think that's possible, but I really think it's going to take some time. I really think the stock is really going to punish people that are late, and I think it's going to really FOMO people in. And then at some point, I don't know when, may even take a month, honestly, it's going to come back down. And then those people that bought in late will get punished again. That's usually how these things work. Will that actually happen this time? Maybe we'll just correct right away. Maybe we just crash off delivery numbers tomorrow and we just come right back down to 185 or something like that. I don't know. Always a possibility. I just don't see that happening as of right now, personally, especially when it comes to a lot of call flow came in, right? There was a lot of call flow that came in right here for the 265 calls. A lot of calls came in today throughout the whole day on Black Box, right? You can see here, substantial amount of premium. Almost each of these is $300,000, right? 265 strike November 15th. Very, very heavy whale call flow that came in on Tesla. So that's important to know that the whales are still bullish moving into summer, fall, right? They're still very bullish, maybe into robotaxi events. But with that being said, for the short term, there was a 1.9 call sell, 1.9 million call sell, 210 strike for this Friday. So this whale clearly believes short term for this week, we don't go much higher than this. And we probably even close below 210 for Friday, or at the very least, we are red tomorrow to where that whale could potentially take some profits. Keep that in mind. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it right now. I think short term, small correction maybe down to 205-ish, really not out of the cards. In fact, I actually think it's possible. And then at the very least, I think we go sideways. If not, that bread just gets eaten up and we move up even higher. That's kind of what I expect right now, but we'll see. But ultimately, the risk versus reward for further upside, in my opinion, has been lowering, especially with this move today, as we're in very, very extreme overbought territory on the daily. So it's going to be hard to resist, but if you're someone that's, trying to FOMO win on this, my opinion, of course, just my thoughts, not financial advice, be careful FOMOing in. That's all I'm going to say. But otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.